Hello friends, what's up? It's Jaime here. Welcome back to another Fangirl Fridays video. These are the videos where I make all of my favorite things everyone else's problem. If you've been following me for a while, then you've probably heard me mention that Legendborn by Tracy Deonn is my favorite book of all time. Or at least it was. It might have been dethroned. I'm not sure. It's very close. Because then I read the sequel to Legendborn, which is what we will be talking about today. The sequel to Legendborn, Bloodmarked by Tracy Deonn. I have the paperback version that has the special like sprayed edges. I think it looks so cool. I love the red. Last year I read Legendborn and I absolutely fell in love with the story and the characters, so I couldn't wait to read Bloodmarked. But when we got the news that the Legendborn cycle was going to be a 4-book series, I wanted to space out my reading of the books so that like I didn't like just immediately consume the series all in one go. Not that all the books are out yet. Oathbound comes out next year in March, I believe, and then we don't have a date for the final book. We don't even have the title for the final book, but that probably won't come out for like another year or two after Oathbound anyway. But so with Oathbound coming out next year, it actually works out very nicely because I read again Legendborn last year, I read Bloodmark this year, and then I will read Oathbound next year. Obviously, again, we don't know when the 4th book is going to come out, so I'm still going to have to wait anyway, but I'm okay with that. Anyway, in today's video, we will be talking about Bloodmark because I desperately need to discuss this book. This book majorly fucked me up in all the best ways. I genuinely cannot decide whether or not I love this book more than Legendborn because both books are just so incredible to me. Okay, so first I'm going to do a little recap of Legendborn to get us all up to speed in case you need a refresher. Then I'm going to share my thoughts on the main characters, and then I'm going to compare Bloodmarked and Legendborn as books and give some general final thoughts. So without further ado, let's get into the video. This goes without saying, but this recap and thus the rest of the video will contain spoilers for Legendborn and Bloodmarked. I'm assuming that if you are watching this video, then you have read both books, or maybe you don't care and you still want to watch the video anyway. I don't know. You do you, whatever floats your boat. But so if you do plan on reading Legendborn and Bloodmarked and the series and you're not caught up or you haven't started them, please click off the video because this is your one and only spoiler warning, okay? Okay, so in Legendborn, Bree Matthews is reeling from the sudden death of her mom and decides to attend an early college program at UNC Chapel Hill in order to have a fresh start. There, Bree witnesses a demon attack, which is Bree's introduction to Legendborn Society, a society derived from King Arthur mythology, where the aptly named Legendborn hunt demons. Because Bree wasn't supposed to see this attack, a teenage mage named Sel, who calls himself a Merlin, erases Bree's memory of the incident, or at least he thinks he did. Because not only does Bree remember the incident, it's because of this event that she is able to discover her own unique magic and recall a repressed memory involving her mother's death. Bree is able to remember that there was a Merlin at the hospital when Bree's mother died. This leads Bree to infiltrate the Legendborn Society to uncover the truth about her mom's death with the help of Nick, a self-exiled Legendborn. While Bree does in fact learn the truth about her mother's death, she also learns that she is not only the scion of King Arthur himself, but also a bloodcrafter and medium as the result of a violent legacy. So at the end of Legendborn, it is revealed that Nick's father, Lord Davis, is responsible for accelerating the arrival of Camlin, the war between the Legendborn and the Shadowborn, the demons, and Martin Davis, his father, kidnaps Nick. And then when we pick up in Bloodmarked, the regents who rule the Legendborn Order are doing everything they can to contain Bree and her power and conceal the war as Bree and her friends attempt to fight back and rescue Nick. Now that we are all up to speed, I'm going to dive into the characters, starting with my girl, the girl, if you will, Bree Matthews. Happy belated birthday, Bree, by the way, by the time this video goes out. Oh my god. Tracy Deonn put my poor girl through the trenches this book. Bree Matthews was literally fighting for her life throughout this entire book. The amount of shit, like the sheer amount of shit she went through is actually insane, and it broke my heart so much for her. Reading the part of Bree's time at the Institute was actually so fucking painful. Like, it was incredibly difficult to get through. It hurt me so much. I'm pretty sure I cried the entire time while reading it. It just, oh my god. Oh, my poor girl. Like, listen, I already had like an inkling, a gut feeling from Legendborn, from everything that we knew and like we're hearing about the Order and how they operate in Legendborn, that I was going to hate the Regents once we actually got like introduced to them. However, I don't think I was fully prepared. Well, I know I wasn't fully prepared for the full scope of just like how evil, just how genuinely evil these motherfuckers are. I'm not ashamed to say that I hope every single one of the Regents die incredibly gruesome and painful deaths, because they deserve literally nothing less for all of the abuse that Bree suffered at their hands. I absolutely cannot wait for those fucking racist, rape denier fuckers to realize that their dismissal and denial of Bree and her power will be their undoing. Especially because, as we have seen throughout the series thus far, the Regents have been ruining lives since literally the beginning of the Order. Bree and Nick and Sel are obvious examples, but then you also have someone like Jonas, who, while was incorrect about how he went about directing his anger by directing it, taking the anger he felt towards the Order and directing that towards Bree, he was justified in his anger towards the Regents. It's unfortunate that Jonas thought that killing a teenage girl was going to be the solution, the remedy to his anger and his problems, but to an extent, I can see why Jonas tried to kill Bree. That doesn't excuse him by any means, because if you ask me, especially the way he went about trying to kill Bree was incredibly like reminiscent of the Regent's treatment of Bree, like ever since they met. Like, Jonas looked Bree in the eyes, in her face, had conversations with her, told her about his life, acted like he was the safe person to be around, and then tried to convince her, when he was trying to kill her, that him killing her was for the benefit of the greater good of the Legendborn and society and like whatnot. And then like the Regents basically did the same thing with how they acted all nice and tried to save face at the right, and then tried to immediately tried to gaslight Bree into thinking that them drugging her and keeping her locked up, not to mention them literally covering up the imminent arrival of Camlin and the fact that Martin Davis is a actual piece of shit. Like, you see the parallels, right? And all of these situations with the Regents and then with Jonas just completely broke my heart for Bree, having to constantly question who she could trust, who she was safe around, having to justify her very existence to so many people. And then on top of that, she was still so traumatized and grieving from the loss of all of her friends from the first book who died in that like last like fight in like the cave, and then also having fucking Arthur like on top of that manipulating her through her desire to see Nick. Listen, I know that Arthur has already been long dead, gone deceased, buried in the ground, probably has completely decomposed at this point, but I would very much like to see him die again for what he did to Bree, and by extension what he did to Alice, and for Sel to do. And I don't even fucking like Sel, but I most certainly do not fuck with this manipulative, racist, power hungry ghost. And though honestly, Arthur just makes the Regents and the Order look so fucking stupid. Like, this is your king, a weird fucking dead guy who manipulates teenage girls. Like, be so serious right now. Not to mention, Arthur was literally forced out of like control of Bree by said teenage girl and two teenage boys. Like, this man is so shit. Like, this is your king. This is who you're championing for. Like, are you your king is shit. Like, y'all are dumb. I just had to add that Bree's whole like dragon sequence was so fucking cool. I was so proud of her. One, because dragons are just super cool and she's super cool, but also because I know that fucking Arthur and Merlin and all them fucking ghosts were like shitting their pants watching this teenage girl fucking kick their asses. Anyway, on to something that didn't absolutely devastate me and make me so sad for Bree. I really, really love that she was able to connect with more root crafters in this book. Obviously, we had Doc Hartwood and Mariah from the last book, and they were also in this book. Always great to see them. But I also really love that Bree was able to connect with Lucille and Hazel in this book. It just warmed my heart so much to see Bree connect with that part of her heritage and hone her powers, and I absolutely cried my eyes out like a baby when Bree got to talk to her mom again. Like, not just like through a memory, like it was actually her mom's like spirit, and that just it made me so deeply, deeply emotional. But like in a good way, because obviously Bree's grief over her mom's death was the driving force of the first book. So her getting to talk with her mom, like actually talk with her mom, like even no matter how short it was in this book, was just it just made me so happy for her. Something I found very interesting that Bree did in this book was her decision to permanently cut off her connection to the ancestral stream. Like I get why she did it. I understand that she like wanted to really be able to make her own decisions and like take charge of her life and her fate, forge her own path without having Arthur in one ear and the ancestors in the other. But she also literally made a deal with the Shadow King. So I would personally maybe want some help from the ancestors, but I don't know, that's just me, I guess. I am Team Bree no matter what. Speaking of which, I've already shared my thoughts and opinions on the love triangle in my Legendborn video, and I will be talking about our love interests in just a bit. Rest assured, I have very strong feelings about each of them, but again, we will get into that momentarily. But I have said it before, and I will say it again. Regardless of who Bree ends up with in the end, ultimately, I just want her to be happy. I want Bree to be happy and healthy, surrounded by her loved ones, her dad, her friends. I want her to be alive and no longer in the trenches. Those are big ones. Those are really big ones. Very important to me, Tracy. I've got my eyes on you. Although I say that, and Bree has already been thrown back into the trenches. Truthfully, she's never really left them. Not for long. It's been rough out here for her because she's literally stuck in this unbreakable bargain with the literal Shadow King, and who fucking knows what that is going to entail, what she's going to have to do to fulfill that bargain. But you know what? I will say, after Bree's experiences with the Regents and the Order, I am almost inclined to say that maybe the Shadow King won't be that bad. Maybe it won't be that bad. You know? The devil you know versus the devil you don't. It's probably too early to make any official like definitive statement on whether or not the Shadow King will be better or worse than the Regents. But you know what? I'm gonna hold out some hope. I'm gonna hold out some hope that when we get Oathbound, you know what? Maybe it just won't be that bad. I'm so nervous. I'm so fucking nervous. I just want Bree to have some fucking peace for once. Like preferably some extended peace, like a peaceful like rest of her life, you know, because she's always fighting for her life. Oh my god, Tracy, please give her a happy ending. Please. 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 All right, next, I've got to talk about my favorite boy, the Nick Davis. And listen, I'm about to make a reference that I don't think many Legendborn readers are going to get, but I'm going to make it anyway because this is my channel. So Tracy really had me feeling like I was watching Minecraft Diary Season 2 when Gareth is trapped in the Irene dimension all over again, with the whole like how Bree was able to speak to Nick through Arthur's memories thing, which is very funny to me because I was a die-hard Garmouse shipper during my Minecraft Diaries fangirl era, and now I ship Bree and Nick. What can I say? I've got a soft spot for blonde boys, at least fictional ones. I don't actually know really any blonde guys in my actual life. Oh my god, literally every scene with Nick in this book either made me cry or made me want to cry because I just missed him so much throughout this entire book. Literally the way I was like, Nick! Every single time there was a Nick scene because he's just my favorite boy. Like, I understand why we had so little Nick in this book because he was literally kidnapped, but I was still devastated by the lack of Nick. But even so, all of the Nick and Bree moments that we got from the Arthur memories shit were so precious to me, and I cherished every single one of them. I ended up getting really busy the day that I was meant to film this video, so I couldn't film the rest of it until today, I changed my outfit because it's quite cold now, so I swapped out the dress for some pants. I also got my COVID and flu shots today and knocked out for a couple of hours, so that's why I'm filming when it's dark out. So that's your update before we get back into the video. Literally almost every Nick scene in this book was just a reminder to me that Nick is so much better than Sel in every conceivable way. And I realize that I'm probably going to be in the minority of Legendborn fans when I say this, but so every book so far, there's always been a scene or a part where Nick does something, and everybody, like the characters, are like, oh my god, how could Nick have done that? Why would Nick do that? Oh my god. Like last book, it was when Nick punched Sel, and then in this book, it was when Nick killed Max. And again, everyone's like all like freaking out about it. They're like, oh my god, how could Nick have ever done that? And then for me, and maybe this is saying something about me as a person, or this is just my bias towards Nick, but then I'm always like, I did not think that that was that bad. And look, I am not afraid to admit that Nick has flaws and that he is capable of doing bad things. I talked about it in my Legendborn video. All that being said, however, I think that Nick was completely justified when, for example, when he punched Sel last book, and I think he was completely justified when he killed Max in this book. Because, yes, in terms of him punching Sel, I recognize the power dynamic and the power imbalance between him and Sel, but that specific punch was after Sel literally tried to murder Bree. So personally, if I were Nick, I probably would have punched the shit out of Sel too, because what the fuck? I'm trying to remember, were Nick and Bree dating at that point? I don't actually know if they were dating. I don't think they were dating at that point. But still, but this person that obviously Nick really, really fucking cares about, like, and Sel just tried to murder an innocent girl. Like, hello. And sure, Nick admitted that he did not kill Max out of retribution or revenge for Max killing his dad, but I am still of the belief that Nick was justified in killing Max, because if you ask me, like, Max absolutely, most certainly, because those were his orders, would have immediately tried to kill Nick the first chance that he got, and was probably going to go for him if Nick hadn't struck first. And also, like, Max was such a huge part of the Regents and the Order, like, abusing Bree. So I'm sorry that I'm not particularly, like, torn up over Nick killing Max. Like, he was a piece of shit. Piece of shit all around. So I apologize if I'm not more, like, torn up and just like devastated about this. I'm sorry. I am a Nick Davis defender. I don't know what you want from me. I am. I'm a Nick Davis defender. Sue me. The one thing I will say though that I thought was fucked up that he did was pretty much just like piecing out when Bree and Sel like came to rescue him, and like not giving them any kind of like heads up that he was going to go his own way, go off on his own, because like Bree and Sel literally almost died because of that rescue mission. So that like the least you could have fucking done was give them some kind of heads up, be like, hey guys, I gotta go my own way. Like, come on now. Surely that could have been handled better. Surely there was something you could have done to have handled that better. All that being said, I am in full support of Nick going full anarchist mode and just absolutely tearing down this god awful, shitty Legendborn system that is not only responsible for what happened to his mom, but for what happened to Sel's mom, and the system that literally abused the fuck out of Bree, and God only knows how many other Legendborn in general. Like, the system, it just has to go. The system is shit. It just needs to be burned to the ground till it is nothing but fucking ashes, because as we have seen time and time again, all this Legendborn system has ever done is cause pain and suffering to literally all the fucking Legendborn. The synopsis for Oathbound is giving me the impression that we're maybe gonna get some Nick POV in Oathbound, which I am totally like all for. I am so on board for that. If that is the case, I hope that that's the case. I really hope that that's the case, because I desperately need some Nick Davis POV, because again, that's my boy. I love him so much. And after this book of barely getting to see him, I feel like it's only fair that we get some Nick POV in the next book. I said this in my Legendborn video, but I'll say it again. While I do ship Bree and Nick, and I find Nick to be outstandingly the superior choice over Sel in, again, literally every conceivable way. Even if Bree and Nick don't ultimately end up together, as long as Nick is happy and at peace, literally that is all I want. That's all I want for him. Like that's really all I'm asking for, Tracy. So like please, can we just like can we make that happen maybe? Maybe? Please? Okay, time to talk about Sel. Yay. I'm so excited to talk about Sel. Can you tell? Can you tell how excited I am to talk about Sal? Listen, if you watched my Legendborn video, then you already know how I feel about Sal, and I can assure you right now that those feelings have not changed after reading Bloodmarked. If anything, those feelings have only worsened. Look, I don't go out of my way to hate Sal, believe it or not. I don't hate him because I want Bree to end up with Nick. It has literally nothing to do with the love triangle. And I realize that, Sel is going through a lot. He's been through a lot. He's literally fighting against becoming a demon. I see that. I recognize that. However, Sel always manages in every situation to just be the most condescending asshole that even if he's making a good point, even if I agree with him, I literally just want to sock him in the face. And again, I have said before, now in this video and my last, like in my Legendborn video, that I acknowledge that Sel has been through a lot. He has gone through a lot in his life. He has had a lot of trauma and just so much shit. I see that. I recognize that. I understand that. I know that. However, I then look at other characters like Bree and Nick and William, who have also experienced a lot of trauma and hardship and also manage to not be fucking insufferable. Because it would be one thing if Sel was actively trying to be a better person, but he just, occasionally slipped back into his old bad habits, but that he was still trying to actually be a good person. But the thing is that there is not a single moment in Bloodmarked or Legendborn where it feels to me that Sel is actually trying to be a better person. And you might argue, well, it's because, again, he's becoming a demon. He's succumbing to his demon nature, like blah 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 blah. Like, sure, maybe that's the case for Bloodmarked. However, I have really not felt a single like genuine moment or a moment that lasted for very long in, again, either of these books where I felt that Sel was, again, even before he really started succumbing to like his demon side, that it felt like he was like genuinely trying to not be like just the most like pretentious, condescending asshole imaginable. So it's really, really difficult for me to be sympathetic towards him. And again, there is a lot for Sel to be upset and angsty about, and I personally believe that most, if not all of it, is completely justified. However, Sel's problem is that he always, always lashes out at the people who don't deserve it, namely Bree, and he also can just never have a productive conversation. He always, to me, the way I see it is like he's always trying to like win the conversation. Like he always has to turn everything into an argument that he can win. And he's always just so condescending when he does it. And he also, which is always really gross to me, always like has to hit below the belt and always like, again, because these are usually arguments that he has with Bree, he's always bringing up shit that just like they've already supposed to have allegedly gotten past or like made amends for, and just again just like generally like hitting below the belt, which I find so fucking gross. It just made me so fucking frustrated and exhausted every time Bree and Sel had a fight in this book, which was pretty much the entire book. They really like barely went one conversation that wasn't a fight or didn't turn into a fight. And like, oh my god, literally every time, and just the way that Sel has consistently spoken to Bree throughout the series, to me, has always just been so fucking disrespectful and at times degrading, and it literally made me want to strangle him every time he opened his mouth. Because the way that Sel speaks to Bree for the vast majority of this book and how he has been speaking to her since Legendborn, again, was just so fucking, oh, me so angry, because nobody who ever claims to love you should ever speak to you the way that Cell has consistently spoken to Bree. Ever. I just have zero fucking tolerance for that shit. And it just made me like, oh my god, I wanted to bang my head against the wall so many times. I was like, Cell, you do not need a fucking girlfriend. You need to go to fucking therapy. You need to see a therapist, bitch. And I don't want to be like that person that like just like says and like considers like therapy as like this catch-all like instant fix for like everybody's problems. However, this man needs professional help before he can even think, before he can even fathom being in a relationship with anyone, much less Bree. And then this man has the absolute fucking nerve to be like, why won't you admit that you have feelings for me, Bree? As if she isn't in a literal relationship with Nick. And I get that like Cell probably does not give a fuck about Nick's feelings in this situation. However, the way that he just keeps hounding Bree about her feelings for him and just like constantly trying to pressure her into talking about it when she obviously isn't ready and doesn't want to talk about it, and just like holding her feelings for him like over her head was just so fucking gross to me. Oh my god, I hate this man. Honestly, unless Cell undergoes a major, I'm talking massive, astronomical character growth arc within the next 2 books, I don't think I'll ever like him as a person, much less see him as a suitable partner for Bree. Like, just because I want Bree and Nick together doesn't mean I'm gonna deny that Bree and Cell obviously care about each other, that they are important to each other. But for me, their romantic connection has always been more like physical than about like actual like real healthy love. And you can say whatever you want about like Bree and Nick and why, because of how kind of quickly things happen between them, that maybe they don't have like the strongest foundation either English. But still, I would very much argue that Bree and Nick are like, and what they have is just so much, again, in every, I know this is what I keep saying, but in every conceivable way, better than whatever the fuck Bree and Cell are supposed to have. And I don't know, man, now that Cell has potentially gone like full demon, I'm not sure if we are going to get the Cell redemption arc that I would like to see, but I suppose only time will tell. Alright, moving on to a character that I actually like, we have my other favorite boy, William Sitterson. And I have to admit, it's not until I make these like videos that I actually remember that his last name is Sitterson, because I always have to look it up for these videos. I feel like they just don't mention William's last name like as often as like Bree's or Nick's or Cell's like throughout the books, or maybe they do and I just have a terrible memory, which is honestly very possible, but I literally can never remember his last name until I make one of these videos. That has nothing to do with how much I love William. I love William so much, and I have a bone to pick with Tracy because she put my boy through the ringer this book. Literally, my baby is so traumatized, and it really hurt my feelings. As we've established, the Order is obviously absolutely fucking evil for what they did to Bree, and then on top of that, they went and traumatized the shit out of William, and it absolutely broke my heart. The fact that William felt the need to take on the burden of administering the serum to Bree, and just like him having to see up close and personal what it was doing to Bree, and like by extension what the Order and the Regents were doing to Bree, oh, oh, that ruined me. Oh, that absolutely devastated me. All William ever wants to do is to help people, and especially help the people he loves, so the fact that those motherfuckers who call themselves the Regents put him in a position where he couldn't even, like, the most he could do to help Bree was administer the serum that was literally just, like, keeping her all, like, fucking drugged up so that the Order could do whatever the fuck they wanted. Oh, oh, I'm not okay. I'm really not okay. I hope that William gets some revenge in some capacity in Oathbound and the rest of the series. I think that directly killing any of the Regents would probably traumatize him further because it goes against his nature as a healer. So maybe just some mild violence. Maybe just some light stabbing, perhaps. Like, just inflicting enough pain on them without killing them, perhaps, I think would maybe be a good way to go. Potential. I'm just throwing ideas out. You know, I'm just spitballing. Feel free to take any of these ideas, Tracy, who's absolutely most certainly watching this video. She is definitely not watching this video. But you know what? In by some by some chance, by some miracle that this video comes across your desk, you know, I've got the ideas. You can always hit me up. My DMs are always open. Um, but yeah, so I just hope that William is able to get some retribution in literally like any capacity, whether that's directly or indirectly, just like fucking up the regions. And if not him, then I hope that Bree and Nick make sure that those fuckers get what's coming to them. Oh my god. It caused me so much pain to see just like how much William was trying to conceal just the amount of absolute pain he has been in between this book and the last book, and he was trying to hide it from like Bree and everybody else, between the agony from losing Whitty and then all the trauma from the Institute, and then literally having to bring Bree and Sel back from the brink of death, and the fact that he's experiencing so much internal conflict over his rightful justified anger over the trauma that he has endured from this book and the last book, but being torn between that anger and that hatred and more violent, like angry version of himself, between the more kind and gentle version of himself, and still trying to stay true to that version of who he's always been, is just, oh my god, Tracy, why do you keep hurting my boy? Why do you keep hurting my baby? I just want him to have some peace. I want all these kids to have some fucking peace. Is that too much to ask for? I'm curious though to see what William is going to do in Oathbound, because Bree and Nick and Sel have pretty much all gone off in different directions. I predict that he'll probably, like, since Nick is the only one who probably actually knows where he is, like, in sort of like a tangible location for him. So I imagine he'll probably go off with Nick wherever Nick goes, but I'm not even sure if that's guaranteed. Whatever ends up being in store for William, I hope involves a break, maybe a nap, maybe some hugs, maybe some time with Larkin. I don't know, maybe. You never know. Who knows? Just, you know, throwing some things out there. And last but certainly not least for the characters, we have my girl, Alice Chen. I fucking love this girl. I said in my Legendborn video that I really hoped that Alice would become more of a key player in Bloodmarked and like the rest of the series, because I felt like she really had the potential to be a very cool character, but we just didn't really see her that much in Legendborn because she didn't know all about the Legendborn and everything that was going on. And holy shit, Tracy absolutely delivered. Oh my gosh, she made Alice so fucking cool in this book. Literally only second to Bree. Alice is that girl. Alice is like, yeah, I might be a once-born, however, that does not mean that you can fuck with me, because I am not somebody to be messed with. Every time she put Sel in his place was just so good and so satisfying and so necessary. And I just love that she does not give a single fuck. She's like, I don't care that you're this powerful King's Mage, Selwyn. If you fuck with my best friend, I'm gonna ultrasonic whistle you, bitch. I'm really a simple girl. I see someone tell Selwyn Kane to shut the fuck up, and I'm like, ah, my day has been made. I also really loved how Alice was very much this voice of reason for Bree, because don't get me wrong, I love my girl Bree. I will support her no matter what. However, we all know that Bree can be a bit impulsive and stubborn at times, and not always think things through, and give Sel way too much leeway. So to have Alice be that like grounding like voice is so essential, and just seeing how far Alice was willing to go for Bree consistently throughout this whole book literally brought me to tears. Alice Chen is a ride or die best friend, and I respect her so much for that. I also really enjoyed Alice and William's friendship. I pretty much knew, I had this gut feeling that they were going to become like instant best friends, and I'm so happy that I was right, because I feel like they're very similar, and I just really love that duo. But of course, because Tracy Deonn said no one in this book can just simply come out unscathed and untraumatized, we have Alice in a fucking coma, and I just, oh my god, that really broke my fucking heart for Bree because she didn't know. She wasn't trying to hurt Alice. She didn't know, and Alice just got caught in the crossfire, and now who fucking knows when she'll wake up and if she'll be the same when she wakes up. And oh my god, why? Tracy, why? Why must you do this to us? I really, really, really hope that Alice wakes up soon. One, just for her sake. I want her to be okay, but also because she is such a great character. I genuinely felt that she was such an essential and integral part of the team despite not having like any magical abilities. And obviously the team has kind of all gone off in separate directions, but when they eventually come back together, I imagine they will eventually come back together, I want her to be there. I want her to be a part of it, even if her role changes, because again, we don't know how she's going to be when she does wake up from the coma. So even if her role does like have to change in some way, I do want her to still be a part of the team in some capacity. All right, now moving on to my final thoughts. As I mentioned before, I had a really hard time, and I've been having a really hard time deciding whether I prefer Bloodmarked or Legendborn, because I feel like both of these books were just so excellent, but for different reasons. I love Legendborn because Bree's character arc is so incredible. She learns so much, and she changes and evolves so much throughout the book, and I felt that it was such a great, vulnerable, poignant depiction of grief and generational trauma. I'm also just on a less like significant note, I'm also just really like a sucker for books that have like stories that have characters who go through like magical trials. And because I love Bree and I love Nick and I love Bree and Nick together, their scenes in Legendborn just had me giggling and kicking my feet and just they had me squealing. It made my heart so warm and happy. They were so sweet and wholesome, and I just love their scenes so much. And I also really loved how we were introduced to the inner workings of Legendborn society in the last book. But I do understand that there were people who felt like there was too much exposition dumping in the last book, which I said this in my Legendborn video. It didn't bother me personally because I felt like it made sense because Bree literally had to learn so much about Legendborn society. Like, she had to catch up so much through such a short span of time. So for me, it didn't really bother me like at all, but I do understand where those people were coming from. And then I feel like with Bloodmarked, because you're already in the world, you already know what's going on, there's less exposition and there's more time for the story and the characters, which I did really like. But there is significantly less Nick in Bloodmarked and significantly more Sel, which is definitely not my favorite thing. But overall, I do feel like the story is more cohesive and that the writing has just gotten even better since Legendborn, not including the ancestral stream scene from Legendborn though. That scene is in a league of its own. That scene will always be so elite to me. But Legendborn will just always be so special to me because it was my introduction into this world and to these characters. And so while I feel like I can maybe say that Bloodmarked is objectively a better book, I don't know if I can pick a favorite. I do wonder how I'm gonna feel when Oathbound and the final book comes out, if then I'll have like a definitive favorite from the series, but only time will tell. I'm just so excited for Oathbound, but I'm also so incredibly nervous that Tracy is either gonna kill off all my favorite characters or just like permanently like scar them and traumatize them. So just can't wait. But I'm genuinely really excited. Before I wrap up this video, I just wanted to share some character thoughts that I couldn't really fit into any other section of the video, but I wanted to share them anyway. So the first thing is that I didn't really like Valak at first because I cannot stand arrogant men, see Selwyn Kane, but I did end up liking him by the end of the book. And then my other note is that I thought that Bree's dynamic with Larkin was really sweet. I was very skeptical of Larkin at first, but he did turn out to be a genuinely good guy and an ally for Bree when she needed him, and I appreciated that, and I also really liked their banter. I like Larkin. I hope we see more of him. Alright, that's all I have for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love this book so much, even though Tracy Deonn destroyed me mentally and emotionally, but I would let her do it again, and she will do it again with Oathbound and the final book in the series, and I'm so incredibly nervous, but genuinely, again, I am super excited to see how she finishes this series that I love so much. If you are a Legendborn fan, let me know down below in the comments who your favorite character or characters are, and if you have any predictions for Oathbound or the rest of the series. If you have any, if you're going to talk about any like really big spoilers, mark them appropriately in the comments. I know I gave my whole like there are going to be spoilers in this video spiel in the beginning of the video, but in case somebody just like did not hear me say that or just like ignored it, I'm trying to be mindful, so just do your due diligence. Once again, that's all I have for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I upload Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, except when I don't, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.